I was a junior in high school. It was torture to be able to with your family for a week.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I can't imagine. Well, my boys, it wasn't too bad. They left.
I was a junior in high school. It was torture to be able to with your family for a week. Oh my God. Yeah, we couldn't go anywhere. I mean, it was like, feet of snow outside. We were stuck in the house.
Oh, okay. See, my boys, they did get out.
Yeah. And you went and got food. I mean, you could go places. And of course, you had phones then too. Now you have the phones because you can charge it and you have the cell. There's no phone service, no nothing.
All right, guys. Spotlighted. Hello, welcome, everyone. I'm Ronita. I am a Purposeful Point, and I teach paint parties. And we do this on Thursday nights. So welcome. Like I said, I only see one new person. It would be Cece, and I welcome. All right, and you guys, you're all welcome to unmute, but just remember, if you have background noise, please remember to go ahead and mute because it sounds
okay. I'm going to mute because I don't know when the husband's going to come in.
Okay. So, and like I always say, you can go ahead and do what you do as far as colors. You can follow me. It looks like you can. That's my bottom. In case you can't see that on the screen. We are going to paint our background. I'm going to paint my background green or whatever color you choose. When I first paint, I do grab my largest flat brush. I love my flat brushes. I do wet it a little bit. I wet it completely, and then I tap it on my paper towel to make sure I get rid of any excess water so it won't run. But really, since we're painting the background, if it's thinner, it's fine. So I'm going to go at it. You can go ahead and paint your background. In my example, you can see that I didn't go all the way to the edges, and there's no reason why I did that. It was just, I'm like, when I did this painting, I did another one. I didn't like it. I turned it into a fish, and then I did that one. So, just kind of experimenting and kind of see where it goes. So I wasn't really conscious of painting all the way to the edge. And plus, now I like it not to the edge. So I'm probably not going to do this one all the way to the edge either. So I'm painting my background, and I am going kind of vertical. I'll go horizontal. Doesn't matter. With the way this painting is, it's not going to matter which way. But as I paint, sometimes you can see that my brush is drying out a little bit. So when that happens for me, I'll stop and wet my brush a little bit. I'm okay with the paint being a little bit thin for the background because we're going to layer. Even you see, I started with the background and I've layered paints on top of that. So I'm not really worried about my background having full coverage. So did anyone else have any snowstorm? I'm not snow, but the wind storms like we did. I went by a house today and it had 3 trees in the yard. All 3 trees are down. Oh, it's rough. Well, it looks rough anyway. My neighbor next door, they had a tree. They had a tree in their yard. It came up, roots and all, the whole thing, and it toppled over into not our yard, but in the next one over. And he had a nice white privacy fence. I don't know whatever that material was. Of course, that's gone. Well, part of it anyway. But luckily, when his tree fell over in the other neighbor's yard, the branches did hit the house, but I didn't see where it damaged anything. So that's great. And the next day, that even though he didn't have electricity, he was out there with his chainsaw cutting the tree down. So, but he does have some, I believe he has a fireplace. So he does have some wood for it.
You know how fast the winds were?
I don't really didn't pay attention. My husband can probably tell you that because, you know, of course he was on it listening to everything, but I wasn't. And he's come home. He's like, you're not watching the news? Well, the first night, of course, I wasn't watching news. We didn't have any TV, but eventually he was like, you're not watching the news? So, but no, I didn't. But
So it was really mostly wind, not snow.
no snow. It was all it was a windstorm. It was crazy. It was, just trees down everywhere. And then even some areas, I saw a yard and it's like, it was a house that kind of set back and it had trees along the driveway. Oh, I don't know. They were younger trees. So I don't know. It was a really strong wind. It took maybe like 4 or 5 trees all the way down that person's driveway. And so those hit some power lines. So then, you know, before they could even get to the power lines, they had to, you know, cut up the branches and the trees and kind of pick it all out before they could even put the power lines back up. So I'm not sure. I hadn't checked this evening to see if those folks that there were still like, it wasn't many, about like 2,000 people that still didn't have any power. But that was this morning I heard on the news. So, but I haven't checked this evening. I'm just grateful. I've never been so excited to hear my refrigerator, the ice maker, it gets stuck sometimes and it just goes click, 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 click. And I was like, oh, yes. Guys, I have my background covered and go ahead and stop. We're going to wait a couple minutes to let that background kind of dry before we go on before we add her to the mix. So I want to go ahead and let that dry. And I know like that was super relaxing to cover a large space with paint. So you can go ahead and put those brushes down. Let me see if I see anyone. Amy is still swiping.
Shall we blow dry it?
You can blow dry it. Yes, absolutely. Put yourself on mute. Yes, there you go. Now watch drying. I am now for her, when I did put her on, you know, basically took my paintbrush and I'd say I just kind of drew her on there. I used white paint to do that. Now you can, you know, do what you like. You can use whatever color you like. I just like the white because I was thinking that after that I could, you know, cover it easily so that it's not. And, you know, instead of using black, it might be more challenging to cover up black than it is white. And that's why I chose that. So, you know, whatever works best for you, just to kind of get, I did, you know, put her outline on here before I filled in everything. And so, of course, it's easy to fill in and cover the black area on top of the white. And then it was the purple as well, too. But if you're up close, you can still see the kind of the white underneath the purple. But, you know, that's if you were up on it, but you guys are far enough away. And you guys always remember when you look at your painting in the camera, it looks way more nicer than it does in person. Okay, so now with the brush that I use to outline her on my painting, I usually use my flat brush, but if it's better for you, you can use a pointer brush. Let's see if I have one handy. A pointer brush to use just like if you were to use a pencil or pencil lead and to kind of add that design on there. Now, I like that, but my logic for me, the reason I like to use the flat brush, I just turn it on the edge, the side and paint using that way. Turn instead of having my brush horizontal, I use it vertical and draw my lines like that. And I like it better like that because you can put the paint goes further. You can put the paint, it'll take it all the way. Whereas if you use the pointer brush, you're gonna paint a little bit of a line, dip, paint a little bit of line because it runs out of paint quicker on the smaller brushes. But that's just my preference. But if it works better for you, even like doing my painters, a lot of them, even though I say that, they'll still use a smaller brush because it helps them. You have better control over what you're doing with a smaller tip paintbrush. But if you've been doing it for a while, like I have, I use my flat brush. So I'm going to look at it. You guys see, if I'm going to kind of divide my painting up into 3 sections, 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3. So about a third of a way down is where this section here, I'm going to make a 7. Does that look like a 7, guys? I'm going to make a 7. Now I make the 7 and it dips a little bit in the middle and goes up. I'm going to show you on this. You guys let me know if I need to do it on paper again so that you guys can understand, or maybe I'll just do it on paper and that'll help. I actually need a piece of paper. I'm going to make a 7. About a third of a way down on my paper. You see, I made that 7. And then that
is this a backwards 7? Because I'm confused where I am.
Whatever works best on your painting, on yours, because
isn't that backwards though, or am I looking at it the wrong way?
Well, I mean, for you it probably is, but it's not for me.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to go with what yours, go with the flow with what yours looks like.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm confused. Okay.
And I have that. That's her other arm, right? And then
it is backwards for us, a backwards 7. I think we'll practice this on paper first.
now this might be kind of exaggerated there, but that's to give you an idea of my 7. Now, and then if that's kind of exaggerated, then I know I can still adjust it with paint.
Can we see that one more time before you take it away?
So I'm a third of a way down. My 7, it's got a little bit of a curve to it. Okay. A little bit of curve. It's a 7, but it's got a little bit of a curve to it. And then I'm going to add that other arm. And that the first one, I started the arm over a little bit too far. So I'm going to make sure that I don't want her bosoms to protrude too much. So let me see where I'm going to go right here. And then what I'll do is I'll bring this arm. I can fill that in later. Her arm. And then see her head. I'm going for her head. And it might not be the right shape, but as we go, when you fill it in, you can paint it to make sure that it's where it's supposed to be, right? So, and another thing to kind of get an idea where the arch of her back is, it kind of lines up with this upper arm here. You can see that I'm doing that. And so I'm going to help myself go here. A little mark right there that kind of lines up with that arm to give me an idea where that the arch in her back is. Then you don't have to go all the way through with that, because the paint, kind of want the paint to sweep backwards with that dress. Does everyone have their outline on there? There's Mary Jennings, right on time. Hi, Mary.
I'm so excited to be with you, and I'm going to mute myself.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we painted our background. I chose green. You choose another color, that's fine. And then I kind of outlined. I've done the outline, and to give you a kind of idea of what we did was about a third of the way down the painting, I drew a big 7, a kind of curvy 7, and then filled her in accordingly with the 7. All right, next, I'm going to grab my purple paint. And now, usually it really depends on what kind of paint that you have. You guys in the past, to make sure that my color is brighter, I would paint the dress white and then put the color on top. But this paint that I've been using, this Deco Art, it's pretty thick and it has great coverage. So I didn't have to use my white. But if you need to, go ahead and add your color on top of the green and see how it looks, how it turns out, and then you decide if you need to paint it white. Did give her a little bit of a strap there. And again, that's up to you. It's not going to make a difference whether she has a strap or not. So, and I'm just going to fill in her dress. You can bring it down as far as you like or short. Just kind of flowy. See how well the paint is covering for me for the green. So if you have paint that does very well, you don't have to worry about painting in the white. But if you do that first coat and it doesn't look the way you like it, or not even a complete coat, go ahead and do white first. Well, go ahead and make one stroke to see how well it covers. And if it doesn't, if it's still a really dark, then you can go ahead and stop there and switch over to the white. And it's okay to mix whichever color you chose with the white for your dress. But if not, I'm loving the coverage on this one. The only thing that I see that I'm not real crazy about is you can see, and I told you guys sometimes where when I stop the strokes, when I stop my brush, you can see those lines. And to alleviate that, to get rid of those lines, I start at the top and I bring my brush all the way to the end. So that way you don't see those where the brush strokes begin and they stop. So either way, that's just me, a personal kind of a analness about myself. And now I'm just kind of putting those areas where I can still see my brush strokes, covering those up. Now, keep in mind, this is a purple that I use. It's a brighter purple. It's a violet, but it's like a brighter violet because I do go back and add some texture to her dress. And I used the regular color violet. I have a light purple, which I put my base, and then I don't know what this one is. It's a lighter violet, and all it is maybe that I added. It looks like it was added. I didn't add it, but it came like maybe with mixed with white, violet mixed with white. So it gives it a lighter color. And also that would explain why it covers so well as also because if you add white, you mix white to a paint, it kind of gives it that more opaque coverage. And so, and I know that violet, that I use this violet and it's thin, it's translucent. So it's not it wouldn't cover as well, and I would need to add that white underneath for my base. So after it's we're going to move to the next step, which will be the black while that dries, and then we'll come back and add the purple on top. And I did use, you can use a brush. I also used a sponge. I did grab my sponge and use that as well to add texture to the painting. Okay, so I'm going to grab back to my, of course, I always use a flat brush, but if you want to use the pointer brush, but mine's just going to go a little bit smaller to help. And I might have to go with the pointer to get those arms the way in one fell swoop. So really, I should go with the pointer brush, and I'm going to go with the pointer brush. I'm not going to be hard-headed. A lot of times I'll use the bigger brush and end up having to make her arms bigger and bigger because the brush it's wider. The brush stroke is wider, and then I'm all over the place. Then I have to go bigger, come where I'm up. So I'm going to go smaller. Okay, and it doesn't matter where you start. Of course, I'm going to try to cover up those white lines that I used to anchor my painting. And it might still be that white. Mine's was still a little wet. It's okay. Then I'm going to fill in her head. Now, I didn't put any hair on her, but if you guys want to add hair, you're welcome to do that. It is your painting. Jacqueline, yeah, Jacqueline said she was going to be here. And then, again, I'm just filling in her arms.
Sides are good to go with all black and everything.
Taking it out to the curb. Garbage day. So we just need a little bit of black. That's pretty much all the black we'll be using. Or you can, if you need to make a darker shade, you can also use the black to darken up your purple paint or whatever paint that, whatever you want it to be darker. Well, my 7 is going to be backwards from yours, Mary. Yeah, Liz already pointed that one out to me. See if I can, yeah, no, there's something on the back of that page. Okay. I'm gonna go draw my 7 again for Mary. And it's a little bit of a curvy 7. So, and that's how I made her body. And that arm there. And her head there. That's the outline. And then you can, do the rest as far as adding the second arm. That one. Her. Okay, so now I'm going to add, like I said, I have my darker purple that I'm going to add, and I'm going to use, again, you can grab a sponge. I'm going to grab my sponge for the background, but for her dress, I'm just going to dab the purple paint onto her dress. And it's okay if it's not dry. It could be, we're just layering it. And it's not going to mess up anything, but you can see that I just have a darker, and it looks really close to what I already have, but I'm using acrylic paint, and acrylic paint, it dries darker, guys. So although it looks really close to what I already have, it's still going to look different because it's going to dry darker. So I'm just adding, kind of adding it towards the back. And my logic for that is to try to give it some dimension, maybe like around her waist, get dark there. And then after that, just to put some texture on her dress in the other places. I don't know, is that close enough where you guys can see? And I know the light kind of shines on it, makes it harder to see. Yeah, I don't know, is that too dark? So, yeah, I'll put a little bit there. So I'm just dabbing it on there with my brush. So it is going to be a little bit heavier. And I still have some of my purple, the lighter, the base color purple, the base on there. So I might kind of dab some in on top of the dark. I like the texture that it gives it. I'm not going to cover it, but just put a little bit on there just to kind of give it some dimension. The texture gives it dimension. It kind of raises it up off. So I kind of like that. And I came back on top with a little bit of darker. Just kind of going back and forth. So just whatever, you know, don't get too carried away, but, you know, put some texture on there and see what you like. And then put a little texture on it. Then you might have to step back a little bit and say, is that enough? Is that too much? Do I need some more here or there, like that? And also, although I went light to dark, you can also kind of add white on top if you want to try it with white. So, okay, so I'm really finished with that, just dabbing, just because I can. And then next, again, I use green. It's a lighter green. I use a darker green on top of the lighter green. Let me see what I did. And that's when I took and used my sponge. And I just got a sponge from, they do have sponges, art sponges. But of course, I got my sponge from my favorite store, the Dollar Tree. And it's a, if I can find it. Well, it was one of those face sponges. Oh, there it is. Like, you can use any kind, like this is like a face sponge, you know, like for makeup. I can use that. And I've also used, this was like 2 or 3 in a pack for $1. I kind of cut it up and used the sponge part of it. You can see where I cut the first one. And so I have several of those like that. I also use as a sponge. Either way, you can also use paper towel if you don't have a sponge, but it's just, I'm just adding texture. So I'm going to wet my brush, my sponge a little bit, just so that I can kind of form it. And I folded it. That's why it's that other one, I cut it because then I can use smaller pieces of sponge and without having to fold it. And I dipped it in my darker green paint. And then you can see here, or I just, you can see where I used green. Sometimes I used white. I put the green down first and put the little bit of yellow. And I'm not going to do yellow today. I used yellow because it was on my palette at that time. But I might add some white on top. But just, I'm dabbing it on there. And get in close case, you can see the texture that it gives it, that I love.
You're doing it in the background. What color are you using on your background there?
My background is green, but it's
Right,
a lighter green. And then I'm dabbing on a darker green.
darker green, okay.
Yeah, it's called like phthalo green.
Oh, okay.
Anything that says phthalo is usually a darker color, and it almost like has a blue.
Bluish, yeah, like a turquoise type tone to it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's not turquoise. It's just
Not
probably
turquoise, yeah, but has that kind of blue-green color.
yeah. The phthalos has more blue in it than yellow. And so now I kind of have, and I want it to like kind of come in gradual as I get closer to her dress. So then I switch to, like right now, I'm just using the same green color that I use for the background. Just, I kind of wanted a gradual effect that it's, kind of getting lighter as I go towards her. So, and I'm using the same green. It may or may not show up differently, but because I already have that darker green in my sponge, I'm thinking that that'll blend a little bit and show up darker. Now I'm gonna grab a little white and come on top. And again, because that green is already in my sponge, it'll still, because it's opaque, it'll still show up. But again, it'll start mixing with the green, but I still just love the texture that it gives on top. And if it's too much, then just add more green to it on top. You feel like it's too much. Truthfully, the reason I threw that on there is because I painted her and I was like, it's just looks like she's just there. So I was like, let me put a little texture in the background. So that's what my thought process was when I was adding it. And see that texture that I put there. And again, the original, I did add a little bit of yellow. So if you want to dab some yellow in there, that's up to you as well. Now this section here, I actually did not use the sponge. I used to actually use the paintbrush to just kind of change the color so it wasn't so flat. So that is an option as well. Right now, because I have it in my sponge, I'm just going to dab some on there. It still gives it a little bit of texture. Well, in the camera, it doesn't show as much, but on my painting, it does show the variations that I want. And that's just the same green color background that I added there. I know it kind of looks like her arms and her face kind of blend in, but when we put that highlight, the white in there, it'll separate it a little bit. Is everyone's dress looking flowy? Looks like I did put a little more arch in that arm on this one than I did that one, but that's cool.
I guess she didn't have any feet, correct?
If you want to,
Yeah, I could see the bottom, so I wasn't sure. No.
yeah, no feet. They're underneath her dress.
Right, that would ruin the flow.
So you guys, next I am going to use my, again, this is where I'm going to put, you can see the white accents there. And it's just like a simple stroke. Now, again, you can grab your pointer brush, a smaller tip brush, or of course, like for me, I like to use my, again, I'm still going to use my flat brush, but instead of painting horizontal, I'm going to turn it vertical and add my white just on the very tip because I don't want it to be too heavy. I don't want that to be too bright, but it's supposed to be an accent. And let's hope that our our black paint is dry. I'm going to add an accent to the top of that arm. And then I'm going to add one to the top arm. It's basically a white line is what I'm adding. And then, like I said, to accent, bring out her face here, to separate it from her face from her arm. I'm going to add there. And I also like to add here at the top. I put one on the top. I sure did. Put that right there on the top. Her bosom. There. And I like the accent marks because again, it gives it a little dimension. I mean, it's okay, you know, some paintings, if you want it flat, it's not like it's an issue, it's really your preference. This is abstract art and it's however you want to interpret it. So, but I do like it. For mine, it's this the marks kind of gives it a little bit of dimension, brings it up off the canvas a little bit, which I like. And there are some designs that are meant to be flat and some, and it's just your preference. And I also did that, bring that down in the front. I got a little bit close to the edge. You don't have to go to the edge. I know some of them, it looks like I got really close to the edge, but that wasn't my intention. So there, and I also put some kind of a near her because I wanted to look like she was in motion, and the accent lines gives it to me an illusion that she's kind of in motion. And that's why I added those lines there. And here. And there. I added a little bit here to cover up a mistake I made. And one low. All right, how do you guys feel? Okay, that's you should be putting your finishing touches on your paintings. Who's ready for their first spotlight? I'm ending my live to YouTube. If anyone on YouTube has any question, please send me a message.